moving cam toys. A cam is a mechanical component which moves in a very special way. We're used to things like a handle. When you turn the handle, it moves in a circle. So there it goes in a circle. So the little axle here is moving in a circle. So whatever we attach to it moves in a circle, unless it's a special shape. And a cam is a special shaped wheel. They need not look exactly like a wheel, but it's a specially shaped wheel, a three-dimensional part, which, although it moves in a circular fashion, it also moves outwards and then back in again. So because it's not pivoted in the centre, it's pivoted at the edge or off the centre, away from the centre. As the axle turns, it sort of swings outwards and then back again. Well, can you imagine if we attach it to something which rests upon it? Every time the bigger part sticks out and pushes, it pushes away whatever object's touching it. And then when it turns round and returns, the object comes back. So it's a way of changing circular motion into up and down motion, up and down. So circular to up and down. So here are the parts for our little cam toy. A foam block. We're going to need a pencil sharpener, a pair of scissors and a pencil. The pencil is actually going to be used as a drill for the foam. Little piece of sandpaper and a paper tube, and that's already got a hole punched into it. We've got the handle arrangement, which is made of a little piece of black plastic there, a tiny little handle for you to hold, and then the axle. This is a pivot that we mentioned, and the pivot's going to fit into the paper tube, and various other bits and pieces to help us create that motion. And these two pieces, two plastic tubes, form the cam. Right, start at the beginning. Let's move things out of the way and just stick with the parts we're going to need to get started. So what we're going to do is fit into the block the axle, but because the axle rubs against the material and causes too much friction, we need to cut the friction down. So we're going to use these smooth tubes called bearings to fit in those holes, and then the axle fits through them. But it's always useful to slightly, very slightly, sandpaper the axles first. Now you could use a pencil sharpener for that, but the temptation is to take too much off the end and then you've made the end of the axle too small. We are going to use a pencil sharpener when it comes to this part, which is the shorter one, which is going to be the pivot. So just spend a bit of time smoothing the very end. You see what I'm doing with the sandpaper? Curl it round, put it in the dowel, and then I'm twisting the dowel and moving the sandpaper around. Both ends. That should be enough. So what we're going to do is, rather than just take the plastic bearings and push them in, we're going to line them up as they go. And the way we're going to do that is put the axle in first, pop on a bearing, and then don't push on the wood, push on just the plastic bearings and push and twist them into the block. Now arrange it so there's a tiny little bit, we need a bit more pushed in, a tiny little bit just visible of the bearing, and then that one, tiny little bit. And what's happened there is the bearings have gone into the foam, not all the way into the middle, just so that you've got a little bit sticking out, but they've kept in line as they do so, and that should allow us to spin the block. Sometimes you'll get a little bit of foam stuck inside the hole, but as you look through you'll be able to find out, and then just check that it's nice and clear. But that, as long as it spins freely like that, we know the bearings are doing their job. Okay, so that's the bearings fitted into the block. Now while we've got the block, we could take the next size dowel. So we've got 3 little dowels today. So we've dealt with the longer one. We're going to take the next size one, and we're going to this time use a pencil sharpener. So the pencil sharpener, we'll just create we don't need a sharp point. About like that would be absolutely fine. On the other end, look, the tiniest little shave. There we are. So a tiny little shave on one end, not a point, but half of a point, you could say, on the other end. We're going to choose a place away from the centre, maybe up in a corner, about there, and then drill a hole. Now you drill the hole by pushing and twisting. Push and twist, push and twist. Now you don't have to go all the way through. Check you're going in a lovely straight line. Okay, we don't want it sort of sloping off to the side. Lovely straight line. Don't have to go all the way through. In goes the dowel pivot. Now later on we'll be attaching the tube to it, and that little clip will go on. So you might want to do this, look. Put the little clip on first so we know it's there. Pop that in. That block is finished. So finish that part, put it out of the way, and we'll turn our attention to the actual cam. So the idea is that the blue tube, or the coloured tube, sorry, because they're all different colours, fits in, and then this jams in between the white plastic and then the centre piece of plastic. Well, the best way to do this is, look, finger in, look, leave some of the plastic sticking out so you can just see where there's a gap, and put the wooden axle in sort of sideways and then turn it in like that. It will fit in. There it goes. So can you see the plastic inside has been squashed, so it's pushing tight against the white plastic. That's exactly what we want. So we've jammed it in. We've jammed it in. There it goes. And you can see how the cam idea now works. It seems to swing from left to right or up and down, whichever way you look at it. And whatever we rest on it would get pushed away from it. And that creates this up and down or to and fro motion from the circular motion of the axle. Just pop it back briefly. And there you can see what we're trying to do. Fabulous. Let's move on. We've got the paper tube, and the paper tube has a hole punched in it. We're going to pop out there the little pivot. So this wooden dowel is called the pivot. In it goes. Can you see the paper tube is resting on top of the cam? And now when we operate the cam from this end, the little paper tube lifts up and down. Now it's a bit awkward for you to see it, because if I turn it on its side, it doesn't want to fall back down, because obviously gravity's pulling it down at the moment. So if I turn it on its side, it'll push it away, but it doesn't want to return it. There you go. So it's not meant to work on its side like that. It's meant to work in that fashion there. So you've got it on the desk in front of you, and when you turn this, it flips it upside down. If I could show you it sideways, around, possibly like that. And you can see our up and down motion. Well, as soon as you see that, you want to start thinking about what could I attach to that moving part there called the follower. So that follows what the cam does. There's the cam, there's the follower. What could I attach to that to make myself a moving toy or scene? Now really the final handle is made of this part and this part, and you should really try and work out, have you got the whole thing working properly first before you go ahead and finish this part? Because ideally what you want to do is turn that on its end so the wooden axle is on the desk, and we'll want to press that on very, very firmly. So it is quite hard to do, and there it is, look. And then of course we've got this one, and that's got to push in there very, very firmly. You can actually tap them in with a hammer, but you've got to be very careful in order to do that. And then when you make the thing work, look, there's your handle there. What some people like to do is, because there's a big gap there, look, we've deliberately left these axles long. So what you can do is slide the cam back not too far or it'll jam, so that it still turns, and then you can use that end to pierce through into a piece of card so it comes out the other end, and then stick something on the end of it which can turn in a circle, and then that becomes part of your scene. So there are all sorts of possibilities for the things that you can do. Whenever I see this, the first thing I think about is something jumping up and down on that end. So if you were to take a little character like a person and sticky tape them on the end, then when you turn the handle, the person would want to jump up and down. And of course, if there was a trampoline there, it would look like the person was jumping up and down on the trampoline. So that's a very, very simple idea. Right, we'll finish it there, and then I'll come back with another video which shows how to attach some bodywork and some ideas for your little cam toy. Fantastic.